Morning.
Welcome back to the Morning Show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and remember, if you're going outdoors this morning, to stay warm, cover yourselves up, your feet, your head, ensure you have an umbrella, a jacket, and if you have some rain boots, maybe you might want to try them on this morning. All right, we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guests, and we're speaking with none other than Assemblyman Natisha Charles Pantin, Secretary of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development. And we're speaking about aligning the UN S.D.G with Tobago Development Strategy. And of course, it's a conversation you want to be a part of. It affects you and me, and it impacts our standard of living here on the island of Tobago. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Bagatelle Bacalet. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Of course, you know, the topic kind of sounds long, and people might be wondering, what are we talking about this morning? And, you know, it's very engaging, and it's important that they understand what we're talking about. So we want to get straight into the conversation this morning as we talk about this motion. But before we talk about it, we want to get into what is the sustainable development goals of the island of Tobago right now, and how does this whole conversation tie into that?
So it is a lot to explain in the short time allotted to me. So this morning I woke up about 5 a.m. and I decided, you know what, let me try my best to condense it into, you know, simple everyday living, because that is what it's all about. The United Nations came up with 17 major goals, right? For the United Nations and its, you know, partnering countries. And it's really to address the fundamental rights and basic needs, right, of all. And it really speaks to how we relate to each other as human beings, and how we resolve all those issues that have been plaguing societies for generations, for decades, yeah? So they came up with 17 goals. I can't remember all off the top of my head, but some of them are no poverty, zero hunger, and all these goals are should be achieved by 2030. So there are certain targets that we all have to address to achieve these goals by 2030. Yeah. So no zero poverty, no poverty, zero hunger, reducing inequalities, climate action, life below water, sustainable communities and cities, you know, collaborating, all the stakeholders collaborating. So it's a lot. Quality education, access to healthcare. So it addresses all those basic needs. And to tell you the truth, when I looked at those 17 goals, and you can go and Google it, right? Anybody can go online and Google those goals. It really speaks to your heart, right? For us returning back to those, you know, cultural, you know, affinity for doing good.
That's right. And community kind of living.
Correct.
Yes.
And if you, let's look at my division, for example, and it would be obvious, zero, you know, hunger, no poverty, you know, these are the things that I have to focus on. But it doesn't stop there, because my division, we would have to collaborate, which is goal number 17, yeah, for collaboration. We would have to collaborate with the Division of Health to achieve some of these goals, right? Or we may have to partner with community development to achieve some of these goals. So it's really how we could improve, you know, the entire world, for example, you know, to ensure that our generation, right, we consume without compromising the future generation to consume, yeah? And of course, in developing uh, islands, countries, without compromising the environment. Yeah, so it's really addressing sustainability.
And this is not just, as you mentioned, this is not just about Tobago.
No.
This is instituted by the United Nations.
Yes.
And so we all have this goal to achieve. We have
Yes,
6
we are
years in which
signatory
to
to
do
it. Yes, yes.
6 years to do it,
Yes.
because by 2030 it
By
has to be done.
2030.
So we have to have boots on the ground, like the policemen say,
Yes.
to ensure that we get to get all of these things,
Yes.
you know, at least started, and to see some measure of progress. Can I ask, where are we now in terms of, okay, so they passed this, they had this conversation, and this is what we're doing. Where are we now in the Tobago space? I know we're probably in the conversation stage, because of course we have to talk, we have to collaborate, we have to strategize before we can implement. So where are we now?
So we have key personnel assisting the divisions in building out what we have to do at a THA level, and also at the stakeholder level, so to ensure that we achieve these goals. But you know what? You know, nothing in life is perfect.
That's right.
So I'll give you an example. So I brought a motion to the House recently to align my development budget with achieving these goals. Yeah? And I have said in this space openly that I have no development budget, right? I have less than $4 million every fiscal. So that is my challenge. But I haven't let it, you know, stop me from becoming creative. And of course, a big part of my entire success is the Executive Council recognizing the challenges that we have as a division, and the Chief Secretary ensuring that we achieve our mandate at food security. So I was really happy that, you know, Mr. Andrews, Bobby Andrews from planning, he continues to, you know, go around to the divisions and, you know, try to train persons on how we could better organize ourselves at the divisions to achieve these goals. So I'll tell you something. I was extremely proud after, you know, all the consultations to hear that my division, the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, we are 55% there with all the projects and initiatives that we have been rolling out. So I have to attribute the success to all my technical officers, the field officers, people that really signed on to building Tobago into the greatest little island on the planet. For too long, we have been fighting the politics. You know, if you do this, you know, somebody trying to fight it down. And we aren't getting anywhere, really, right? And there would come a time where when we start, you know, we look around and you see we haven't done anything. We haven't grown as a society, all because of the political banter, yeah? Now, I know I'm a politician, yeah, I know that. All right, and it's important that we point out the shortcomings in the allocations that we get. But we point that out because we want, as Tobagonians, to develop Tobago into the greatest little island on the planet. And we need to stand up for that fundamental right, I call it that. Because we wouldn't be able to achieve our basic needs and fall in line with these goals, yeah? So we would continue articulating for money because it's the only way that we can fix this island. But it isn't our responsibility alone as the Tobago House of Assembly. The collaboration speaks to the business sector. It speaks to you know, everyone, right? What can we do? For example, at your home, you know, things that we take for granted, that extra shower that we like to take, you know, bathing for an hour, you know, how can we conserve water? And this year we would have experienced a very harsh dry season. So how do we manage that basic thing around us? You know, how do we, for example, the light bulbs in our homes, right? They are energy efficient bulbs. You know, maybe in terms of transport, you know, you have a friend, let's carpool, yeah? So we need to rethink all the things that we do that could add up, you know.
It sounds as if this part of it where I am involved,
Yes.
it really calls for behavioral changes.
Correct.
Because when you're talking about carpool, I
Yes.
have my car and I want to
Yes.
drive in my car.
Yes.
Because if I go somewhere when I'm ready to leave,
Yes.
I'm ready to leave.
Yes.
You know, and so the challenges come there. And so we have to try now to change behaviors, because I can tell you that at this point in time, I know some of these students in primary school, they are doing projects. And one of the projects I heard about was pollution, air pollution, land pollution, water pollution.
Correct.
And one of the things that the students are focusing on now is how to reduce carbon emissions. So carpooling came up, which is very relevant. So, you know, we really have to pay attention to our environment.
Correct.
We have to pay attention to our environment. You made comments about how harsh our dry season was.
Correct.
And the call that we kept getting from WASA in terms of conserving the water. We take it for granted.
We take a lot of things for granted. Even at at the divisional level, we need to look at those things that we would say waste. You know, how could we better organize ourselves to, you know, have extra resources to do other things, right? And that would be down to you as well. Yeah, so it's at the THA level, at the business sector level, and of course at the individual level.
And you know, something like this is a massive undertaking, because of course we're talking about people getting involved now. It's not just institutions, not just the THA, not just the business sector, but people, the inhabitants of the land have to get involved. So I'm thinking now, is there anything in terms of aggressive public education to sensitize people of the importance of the behavioral changes that are required to achieve the goals, not just for the sake of recording while we've achieved our goals, but of course for sustainability, because that's part of it. Sustaining ourselves and ensuring that generations that will come after us will live in a space that is comfortable.
Right. And you are correct. We need massive education. But first, you know, training the different divisions, you know, on what sustainable development is, and causing them to rethink our approach, you know, or their approach to management of their limited resources, and of course changing your work ethic, right? The way we communicate, right? I say it's really a matter for the heart, right? No longer should we think, you know, this is my space and I'm managing because I'm the manager, you know. You have that kind of thing as well, right? But, you know, if you coordinate with managers, right, how can we as managers across the space, across the divisions, work together, right, so that we could achieve particular goals? Yeah, and of course there are different targets that, you know, and indicators that you have to look for. Yeah, but that's really it. And our division, we, for example, we did a program on women involved in natural resources and agriculture, and it really was a program to bring women together that have a passion for craft and doing agro-processing, all the stakeholders involved in agriculture, really organizing them, training them, trying to improve the quality of their products, right, in order to make an extra income, and of course getting them ready for export. And recently we had an exercise where trained professionals came and identified different products that were ready for the US market. So that is an effort to reduce, you know, inequalities, you know, between men and women, yeah? But it's really those projects that can contribute to the bigger goal. How do we organize our data, for example? Now, really, Tobago, our data gets lost in the national statistics, yeah? So Tobago now needs to embark on collecting data, right? And how we use that data to now improve the lives of citizens, yeah? So if, for example, if we get caught up in poverty statistics nationally, it wouldn't give you a true reflection of what poverty would be at the Tobago level. Yeah. So we are looking at organizing our data at the micro level and managing what we have in Tobago. Yeah. So we would have established at the division, even before this motion, the research and development information section under the division. And of course, we're building out the Tobago Agriculture Research Institute. And both will be working together, not in silos. They'll be working together to create a ready institute for persons pursuing agriculture in a meaningful way, right? And of course, addressing those issues like climate change and all these things, you will get that at the Tobago Agricultural Institute. So we have been doing a lot, yeah?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Assemblyman Secretary Natisha Charles Pantin of the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, and a very, very important and interesting topic this morning, something that we should all be a part of. I'm inviting you to leave your comments on the live stream as we engage in this conversation, because it is important that we all understand, not because it's a call from the UN, but because it really does affect and impact our daily lives wherever we live, whether it's Trinidad, Tobago, the Caribbean region, internationally. It affects and impacts all of our lives. So be a part of this conversation this morning as we go into the elements and the aspects that really affect us, and to see how we can, add to the change that we want to see come 2030 and even beyond. So, let's participate in this conversation, but we have to go for a short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. And before we go for this break, of course, call all your friends, get them involved in the conversation and help us to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. We're now at 7:44 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8, remember it's a wet morning. So be safe when you're dropping the children off and getting yourself to work. If you're a little bit late this morning, that's okay. Remember, the streets are a little bit wet, so take your time in getting there. All right, we continue conversations this morning in studio. We're speaking with Assemblyman Natisha Charles Pantin, Secretary of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development. Very interesting conversation this morning as we speak about the Sustainable Development Goals of Tobago. And of course, we're talking about an international move by the UN. There are some goals that we must achieve by 2030, which also include eradication of poverty, no hunger. We're talking about education and, sustainable living and development. And so we're having that conversation this morning, and we're hoping that you're listening and that you're paying attention. And also, we welcome your comments. We welcome your views on this topic as well. Even if you have concerns or questions, or you have points of view to participate in the conversation, this is a conversation that involves all of us. So we continue this morning, and when we were speaking, you mentioned that your division is at 55% in terms of achieving your goals. And we want to talk a little bit more about some initiatives that you have done and the things that you have projected to do in the coming of course, will be years and, for your period there.
Yes, well, and that is a whole lot, yeah? So we're looking at those goals like zero hunger, no poverty. And, in coming to the studio today, my husband and I were listening something on the radio, and we heard that, the richest 1%ers of the world, they have more money than all the people in the world. Could you imagine that?
Wow.
And you still have people who don't eat every day, right? They have meals some days.
This is really heartbreaking,
Correct. And when you do the comparison, right? In Tobago, if I can't eat today, for sure I'm getting a plate of food from my uncle out the road, yeah?
Yes.
Or from a friend. Some people don't have that option. So becoming sustainable as an island is important. As a country is important. And my division, we have been trying to encourage home gardening. And we have over 950 registered home gardeners that our home garden unit support. Yeah? they support all the schools, right? They have covered about 56 schools so far, including the early childhood centers, setting up hydroponic self-watering systems, training persons on how to build and grow boxes and to utilize grow boxes and different techniques on how to grow food. Right, we do massive seedling distribution and seed distributions. I show you, we would have done it in the back of this building
That's
recently.
right, yes.
Massive. So we are trying to encourage each and every person to become self-sufficient, yeah, at home gardening. And of course, we are encouraging commercial farming because we have to look at food security as a whole. And I must mention fishing. Now, since I came into office, we would have seen TADCO in the media all the time. And it is difficult for a division that has no development budget. And when I say I don't have it, let me be clear. What I get as a development budget, when I got into office, the entire budget, the majority of the budget, that is used to pay workers. So I don't have like many divisions or ministries, let me say ministries, because they have 56 million to build a zoo in Trinidad. I have no money
for projects.
For projects, none, zero. Right? As a matter of fact, in 1 month, that less than 3 million done, right? At the beginning of the fiscal. So we have been moving mountains, yeah, with what we get, right? And TADCO has not had a major injection of funds since then. So I don't know if that's deliberate, maybe it is, but it has caused us to swim. So they threw us out in the water, so we learn how to swim. We learn how to restructure for efficiency. And that is why the missing capital of paradise no longer missing, right? It's fishing. As a matter of fact, I believe it's over $2 million they have gotten to date, right? And in the beginning, about 75% of that money, that was used to sustain the company. So that is success. That is us trying to make it. So listening to people talk about TADCO, if we could successfully fix TADCO, then it is an indication that Tobagonians can do great things, just like any other country, right? And building your own community, setting up the infrastructure that is necessary to feed Tobago, to build sustainable cities and communities. That is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So if we're not doing that, then we definitely, and then, you know, we signed on to it, right? So that means, you know, if we are not getting that support, we're not getting our fair share of the budget, it's difficult for Tobago to hold its own.
I understand that because, of course, at the end of the day, everything has a cost to it. Everything has a cost, and you have to find ways. We just had an interview this morning with a young girl from school, and they found a way to raise funds for an event they want to host. So you have to find, if you don't have that, then you come with a challenge. You have to be innovative. I've seen the innovation of this division in terms of getting things off the ground. And now there's a whole, I'm sure there's so many more projects that you have that you want to roll out. Finances being the challenge, yes, but what are some of the things that you have planned? What are some of the strategies that you have lined up, or even the ideas as they come to mind in terms of executing and implementing for getting to the goal of no poverty,
yes,
no hunger?
Yes, all the different goals, yeah, and it's a lot, it's 17.
That's right.
Right? As recent as yesterday, you would have seen in the media that the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Company, they held a consultation with the community of Corland and environs to manage the Corland Park, right? To come up with a user policy for the Corland Park. And, you know, we have been developing user fee policies or user policies for the open spaces in Tobago. That's another attempt at trying to manage our resources sustainably. Yeah. So we started out with the botanic gardens, and if you look at the botanic gardens, you see the condition of the fence, just the fence alone. Yeah. You look at how the landscaping is perfect, but you see the infrastructure, it's very poor. So we implemented a policy there, right? Consultations will begin, yeah, but we started out with something, right? And you would have seen the potential of the botanic gardens for the Christmas period, where generations of children, they never walked the botanic gardens, but they did so. They walked, they played, they spread their blankets, and they watched movies for Christmas and Easter. We have to rethink how we manage our spaces, right? When we had the oil boom, you had a lot of money floating around. But now Petrotrain closed down. We don't have what we used to have. And that is it teaches us a lesson there, that in the times of plenty, if you don't manage what you have, there will be a time where there is little.
It reminds me of the Bible, 7
Correct.
years of feast, 7 years of famine.
Famine, 7 years of famine.
That's right.
And if we don't rethink how we use our spaces, and the famine don't have to only be about money and resources. Look at the transformation in terms of culture. I was speaking at a stakeholder consultation with police and Coast Guard to better manage the marine park, the Buko Reef Marine Park. And the culture now, people are fearful of their lives, right? You have a small shop somewhere, and any day somebody can run into that shop with a weapon. And I remember in my childhood days, the respect that we gave to officers, the respect that we gave to even politicians, right? Now you don't have it.
The respect we even gave to each other. Because I remember as a child growing up, I dare not have anybody send a message to my mother saying I did not say good morning to them on the streets. So the culture really has changed.
The culture has changed. So we are a country that I say we could use, an island that we can use as a model, because we haven't lost it all. We still have time to teach our young people how to respect each other, how to say no to drugs. When we were growing up, right, it was a song for us, saying no to drugs, right? It was playing on the radio and the TV all the time. So from the time somebody sticks something into your face, you say, no, I don't want to go on drugs. But now you have people just rolling it in your face, and it doesn't matter to them, right? You have all kind of numbers. And so the times of famine it doesn't only speak about money, when you are unsafe, when you feel unsafe, right? The safety issue is not just for the TTPS alone. They can't do it alone. It's for all of us. How do we organize ourselves as communities to protect each other? So I don't only look at just money, and managing our open spaces for people to interact, to get to know each other. You knew everybody that lived in your community as a child.
That's right.
So that is an attempt to bring back the values that we had in our villages, in our communities.
That's right. That's right. We really, it takes a community. It takes a village. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to raise a village.
Correct.
Because if you want to stay sustainable, we really have to, I feel as if we become so selfish and self-indulgent that we just think about what we want immediately in our, our own space, that we don't think externally. Sometimes you see the children on their gadgets and you're calling them You have to call them 5 times before they hear the
Before
name
they hear the
and
name.
respond.
Right.
So we really have to come back to that place of where the culture changes as well. And you know, as we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and you mentioned that one of the goals is collaboration.
Correct.
We definitely have to come together. You know, all these town hall meetings that we have, ensure that people know what the 17 goals are. You said that we can Google them. You can go online and Google what the 17 goals are. Get familiar with it so that when the conversations roll out, you can be a part of the conversation. You can ask the questions that you think need to be asked. You can raise the topics. You can even give ideas in terms of how can we move forward in completing these goals. It's not just the division of food security alone responsible for all 17 goals. Don't think that that's it at all. It's all of us.
It's all of us. And I'll tell you something. If we don't, as individuals, contribute to achieving these goals, we are the ones that will lose. Because if you are rich, you will spend all the money building huge things around you to protect you, when all you could do is support your neighbor.
So that you don't have to protect yourself.
So you don't have to protect yourself, your neighbor will protect you.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm saying that these sustainable development goals, they are matters for the heart. Yeah? It relates to your heart and how you interact with one another. So it's not about the secretary of the division. I mean, for the most part, it is how I organize my division in government to provide that support for the community. But we as individuals, we have a mandate as well. We have a responsibility. We are not supposed to wait until we walk into KFC or we drive into the gas station to have to face a gunman to say, look, let me see how I could contribute to the young man across the road who couldn't buy his school books. Right?
Yeah. You know, this conversation, as you started the conversation by saying it's a matter of the heart, and you're ending it on the same note. It really is a matter of the heart. The policymakers can make the policies, they can implement the projects, we can roll out, but it also takes each and every one of us to participate, to do our own, look out for each other, be a brother's keeper, run your home garden, see how best you can sustain yourself and help somebody else. Remember, if you have everything and I have nothing, I'm trying to figure out how to get something. And if you alone have it all, I'm coming to you, right? So that's the way how the world works. So you have to think not just about yourself, but about the person who does not have and looking at your own thing. So in closing, I want you to just summarize exactly what you want our listeners to take away from this conversation as we work towards the Sustainable Development Goals.
I want them to understand that in building the greatest little island on the planet, you have to, and I know all of us, we would have had our experiences in life, but we are at a crisis stage where we need one another to fix Tobago. So whether or not you have a degree, it doesn't make you better than somebody else, other than the fact that you have more information to help. If you don't have a degree, you have a skill. So it equips you to be part of building Tobago. So I want all of us to just Google what the Sustainable Development Goals are, understand them, understand the objectives, the targets, and then the conversation will continue how the Tobago House of Assembly will fit in to this entire, because there's a framework that we will roll out and have a consultation with Tobago. But the preliminary thing, what you can do now for yourselves, is to Google those goals, understand them, and then when I speak, you would fully understand why we are embarking on this really important journey to build the greatest little island on the planet that fits into the wider global community.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman Natisha Charles Pantin, Secretary for Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development. We're talking about our Sustainable Development Goals as instituted by the United Nations. Every country has to get to there by 2030, and you and I can help to get there. So let's work together to make this happen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we end the morning show on Tobago Updates Television, but we don't end our programming here. We head on over to Tobago Notes and then on to GMT. So stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we ask you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.